Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Nuflihin Surya and with my partner, Firgiawan Budi, we're from Group 8 and Class 5G. So on this video, we will explain about our material, language testing and speaking. We came to the definition of speaking skills assessment. Speaking is seen by language testers as the most difficult of the four language skills to assess. Assessing speaking requires that we either observe a live oral performance or that we capture the performance by some means for evaluation. At a later time, a method for elicitation must be selected, rating scales must be developed, and the interviewers and orators must be trained. Therefore, understanding the assessment of speaking requires examination of assessment, method, scales, and raters. Anyway, we're moving to another material, which is about the level of speaking. At the first are distinguished level. Speakers at a distinguished level are able to use language skillfully and with accuracy, efficiency, and effectiveness. They are educated and articulate users of the language. And then the next level are superior. Speakers at the superior level are able to communicate with accuracy and fluency in order to participate fully and effectively in conversation on a variety of topics in formal or informal settings from both concrete and abstract perspective. They discuss their interests and special fields of competence, explain complex matters in detail, and provide lengthy of the coherent narrations, all with ease, fluency, and accuracy. At the next level are advanced. Speakers at the advanced level engage in conversation in clearly participatory manner in order to communicate information on autobiographical topics as well as the topics of community, national, or international interest. We came to another level, that is intermediate. Speakers at the intermediate level are distinguished primarily by their ability to create with the language when talking about familiar topics related to their daily life. And the last level are novice. Novice level speakers can communicate short messages on highly predictable, everyday topics that affect them directly. They do so primarily through the use of isolated words and phrases that have been encountered, memorized, and recalled. Novice level speakers may be difficult to understand even by the most sympathetic and interlocutors accustomed to the native speech.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Firgiawan Budi. In here, I want to explain the next material. It's about basic types of speaking. There are 5 basic types of speaking. The first one is imitative. The second one is intensive. The third one is responsive. The fourth is interactive. And the last one is extensive speaking. The first is imitative speaking. At one end of a continuum of types of speaking performance is the ability to simply parrot back or imitate a word or phrase or possibly a sentence. While this is a purely phonetic level of oral production, and then a number of prosodic, lexical, and grammatical properties of language may be included in the criterion performance. We are interested only in what is traditional level pronunciation. No inference are made about the test taker ability to understand or convey meaning or to participate in an interactive conversation. The only rule of speaking here is the short term storage of a prompt just long enough to allow the speaker to retrain the short stretch of language that must be imitated. And then the next is intensive speaking. A second type of speaking frequently employed in assessment context is the production of short stretches of oral language designed to demonstrate competence in a narrow band of grammatical, phrasal, lexical, or phonological relationships such as prosodic elements, intonation, stress, rhythm, or juncture. The speaker must be aware of semantic properties in order to be able to respond. But interaction with test administration, test administrator is minimal at best. And then the third is responsive speaking. Responsive assessment tasks include interaction and task comprehension, but at the somewhat limited level of very short conversation, standard greetings and small talk, simple requests and comments, and the like. And then the next is interactive speaking. The difference between responsive and interactive speaking in the length and complexity of the interaction, which sometimes includes multiple exchange and or multiple participants. In interaction can take the two forms of transactional language, which has the purpose of exchanging specific information, or interpersonal exchange, which have the purpose of maintaining social relationship. And then the last one is extensive speaking. Extensive oral production tasks include speeches, oral presentation, and storytelling, during which the opportunity for oral interaction from listener is either highly limited, perhaps to nonverbal responses, are ruled out altogether. Language style is frequently more deliberative or planning is involved and formal for extensive tasks, but we cannot rule out certain informal monologues such as casually delivered speech. For example, my vacation in the mountains, a recipe for outstanding pesta primavera, and then recounting the plot of a novel or movie. Okay, challenging when assessing speaking. Learning how to teach and assess speaking skill is probably one of the biggest challenges compared to the other three language skills, because you have to pay attention to aspects such as the first one is fluency, the second one is pronunciation, the third is vocabulary, the fourth is accuracy, the fifth is interaction, and the last one is communication. In fluency, this means speaking easily, reasonable, quickly, and without having to stop and pause a lot. And then for pronunciation, the act or result of producing the sound of speech, including articulation, stress, and intonation. And then the third is vocabulary, the body of word used in a particular language. And then for accuracy, this refers to how correct learners use the language system is, including their use of grammar, pronunciation, and also vocabulary. And then the fifth is interaction. This refers to the ability to interact with other during communicative tasks. And then the last one is communication. This refers to the student's ability to transmit her or his ideas.
We jump to macro and micro skills of speaking. At the first discussion, I will explain about micro skills. So micro skills is produce differences among English phonemes and allophonics variants. And then next, also produce chunks of language of different length. And next, produce length stress patterns, words in stress and unstressed positions, rhythmic structure, and also intonation contours. Not only them, and also produce the reduced forms of words and phrases. And next, use an adequate number of lexical units or words to accomplish pragmatic purposes. Continually produce fluent speech at different rates of delivery. And others, monitors one's own oral production and use various strategic devices, pause, fillers, self-corrections, backtracking to enhance the clarity of the message. And others use grammatical word classes such as nouns, verb, and etc. System, for example, like a tense, agreement, pluralizations, and also like word order, patterns, rules, and elliptical forms. Not only that, produce speech in natural constituents like inappropriate phrases, pause groups, breath groups, and also sentence constituents. And next, express a particular meaning in a different grammatical forms. And the last one is use cohesive device in spoken discourse. We're going to macro skills. In the macro skills, they are appropriately complex the communicative or function according to situations, participants, and goals. Not only that, in the micro skills also explain about use appropriate styles, registers, implicator, and also redundancies, pragmatics, conventions, and conversions rules, and also floor keeping and yielding, and also interrupting, and other sociolinguistic features in face-to-face conversations. Not only that, in micro skills also convey links and also connection between events and communicate such a relation as the focal and the peripheral ideas, events and feelings, information and given information, and also generalization and exemplifications. And next, we're going to the like other micro skills facts, that is convey facial features, kinesics, and also body language and other nonverbal cues along with verbal language.
Okay, next is designing assessment tasks. In the first task of speaking is imitative speaking. Imitative speaking tasks are based on repetition. You just need to repeat a sentence you hear. You may be surprised to see the inclusion of simple phonological imitation and consideration of assessment of oral production. After all, endless repeating of words, phrases, and sentences was the province of the long since discarded audiolingual method, and in an era of communicative language teaching, many believe that non-meaningful imitation of sound is fruitless. An occasional phonologically focused repetition task is warranted as long as repetition tasks are not allowed to occupy a dominant role in an overall oral production assessment, and as long as you artfully avoid a negative voiceback effect. And for example, the question of the word repetition, kind of like the test administrator say beat, and then the test taker here, and then the test taker also say what the task administrator said, kind of like that. And then a variation on such a task prompt test taker with a brief written stimulus which they are to read aloud. Scoring specification must be clear in order to avoid reliability breakdowns. A common form of scoring simply indicates a 2 or 3 point system for each response. For example, like 2 for acceptable pronounce, and then what is comprehensible or partially correct pronunciation, and the 0 1 is for silent or seriously incorrect pronunciation.
Anyway, we're going to the another material, which is designing assessment text intensive speakings. So in this material, I will more focusing about how to designing assessment text, especially in intensive speakings. Anyways, the definition of the designing assessment text, especially in intensive speaking, is at the intensive level, test takers are prone to produce short stretches or discourse, for example, like no more than a sentence, through which they demonstrate linguistic ability at a specified level of language. Many texts are cute, which is like a text in that they lead the text taker into a narrow band of possibility. For example, of the intensive designing text is a read aloud text. So this is a procedure how to conduct a read aloud text, which is Teacher listen to recording and evaluate the students in a series of phonological factors and fluency. Some variation of this text are: first, reading a script dialogue with someone else, and then a reading sentence containing minimal pairs, and the last one, reading information from a table chart. We came to another types of intensive, which is sentence or dialogue completion text, which is students read through the dialogue so he can think about proper lines to fill in. The teacher produces one part orally and the students response. As you can see on your screen right now, so the pictures are the example of the read aloud worksheet and also the dialogue worksheet. You can zoom out of the pic of this presentation, and then you can read for example of them. So for the read aloud worksheet, there are like some paragraph, and also for the dialogues, something like this. You can see on the screen. In this slide, it's about how do scoring in terms of speakings, especially for read aloud. As I stated before, so for read aloud, the score is about the phonological, also something else in the speakings. So as you can see in here, according to the test of speaking scoring scale, 1987 page 10, so it's about the example of the scoring, for example, from the pronunciation aspect, also for fluency aspect. And at these pictures already provide some like points or scales of the pronunciation and also fluency, start from the 0 till 4, and on the 0.5 to 1.5 and so on, and with and related with the pronunciation. So fluency also has the same specification of the scoring and points from 0.0 to 0.4 and so on. Alright, so we're moving to designing assessment text, especially for responsive speaking. This assessment of the responsive text involved a brief interaction with an interlocutor, and also differing from intensive text in the increased creativity given to the test taker, and from interactive text by the somewhat limited length of the utterance. These these are some of the texts which can be used when using responsive speaking text. At the very first, we have question and answer. Students respond question that the test administrator asks. So as you can see on the screen, so this is, for example, the script of the questions and answer worksheet. So they have to answer questions with orally and then something like that. So not only in question and answer of the responsive, so there are another types of them, which is paraphrasings. The paraphrasing, the test taker is asked to paraphrase in 2 or 3 sentences what he heard or read. So they have to the paraphrasing that the paragraph the instructor given to them. So they have to make new phrases or sentence. So as you can see in here, this so as you can see on on your screen right now or on the video, so this at the bottom picture or example, these are example of the paraphrasing worksheet. It's about a like a paragraph.
Okay, the next is designing assessment tasks in interactive speaking. There are 4 kind of tasks in interactive speaking. The first one is interview. The second one is role play. The third is discussion and conversation. And the last is games. The interview is a face-to-face exchange between test administrator and test taker. In here, Michael Channel, 1984, proposed a framework for oral proficiency testing that has withstood the test of time. He suggested that test takers will perform at their best if they are led through four stages. The first one is warm up. The second one is level check. The third is probe, and the last one is wind down. For the warm up, in a minute or so of preliminary small talk, the interviewer directs mutual introduction, help the test taker become comfortable with the situation, apprises the test taker of the format, and allay anxieties. And this stage, no scoring of this take place. And then the second one is level check. Through a series of pre-planned questions, the interviewer stimulates the test taker to responding using expected or predicted form and function. If, for example, from previous test information grades or other data, the test taker has been judged to be a level 2 speaker. The interviewer's prompts will attempt to confirm this assumption. The responses may take very simple or very complex form, and then depending on the entry level of the learner. Questions are usually designed to elicit grammar categories such as past tense or subject-verb agreement, and then discourse structure or a sequence of events, and then vocabulary usage and or sociolinguistic factor, kind of like politeness, convention, and then informal or informal language. This stage could also give the interviewer a picture of the test taker extroversion, readiness to speak, and then confidence, all of which may be of significant sequence in the interviewer's results. And then the third is probe. Probe question and prompts challenge test taker to go to the highest of their ability to extend beyond the limit of the interviewer's expectation through extremely difficult question. Probe question may be complex in their forming and or complex in their cognitive and linguistic demand. And then the last one is wind down. This final test is the interview is simply a short period of time during which the interviewer encourages the test taker to relax with some easy question, set the test taker mind at easy, and provide information about when and where to obtain the result of the interviewer. The success of an oral interview will depend on the first one is clearly specifying administrative procedure of assessment, and then focusing of the question and probes on the purpose of the assessment, and then appropriately eliciting an optimal amount and quality of oral production from the test taker, besides the form for best performance and creating a consistent workable scoring system. And then the next task is role play. Role playing is a popular pedagogical activity in communicative language teaching classes with constraints set for the guidelines in free students to be somewhat creative in their linguistic output. In some version, role play allows some rehearsal time so that students can map out what they are going to say, and it has the effect of lowering and anxieties of student can, even for a few moments, take on the persona of someone other than themselves. And as an assessment device, roleplay opens some windows of opportunity for test taker to use the discourse that might otherwise be difficult to elicit with prompts such as pretend that you are a tourist asking me for direction, or you are buying an apple from me in a flea market and you want to get a lower price. Certain personal, strategic, and linguistic factors come into the foreground of the test taker oral abilities. And then the next is the next kind of the test in The speaking is discussion and conversation. As formal assessment devices, discussion and conversation with and among students are difficult to specify and even more difficult to score. But as informal technique to assess learners, they offer a level of authenticity and spontaneity that other assessment technique may not provide. Discussion may be especially appropriate task through which to elicit and observe such ability as topic nomination, maintenance, and termination, and then attention getting, interrupting, floor holding, control, clarifying, and then questioning, paraphrasing, comprehension signal, or negotiation meaning, and others. In the next is games. Among informal assessment devices are variety of games that directly involve language production. Consider the following types. The first one is Tinker Toy game, and then the second one is crossword puzzle. The third is information gap grids, and the last one is city maps. And then for the Tinker Toy game, a Tinker Toy or Lego block structure is built behind a screen. One or two learners are allowed to view the structure. In successive stage of construction, the learner tells runner who cannot observe the structure how to recreate the structure, and then the runners that tell builders behind other screen how to build the structure. And then the second one is crossword puzzle are created in which the names of a member of a class are clues by obscure information about them. Each class member must ask questions of others to determine how matches the clue in the puzzle. And then the next is information gap grids. In this kind of game are created such the class members must conduct mini interview of other classmates to fill in box such as born in July, and then plays the violin, and then has a 2-year-old child, and etc. And then the fourth kind of the game is city maps. In here, distributed a class member, predetermined map the direction are given to one student who, and then which with a city map in front of him or her, describe the route to a partner who must then trace the route and get the correct final destination. And the last of designing assessment in speaking is extensive speaking. There are three kind of tasks in extensive speaking. The first one is oral presentation. The second is picture cute storytelling, and the last is retelling a story news event. Oral presentation are the most common tasks for evaluating extensive speaking. These are evaluated based on content and delivery. In the academic and professional areas, it would not be uncommon to be called on to present a report, a paper, or a marketing plan, and then a sales idea or a method. A summary of oral assessment technique would therefore be incomplete without some consideration of extensive speaking tasks. Once again, the rules of effective assessment must be involved. The first one is specify the criterion and then set appropriate tasks. And then the third is elicit optimal output. And the last is establish practical reliable scoring procedures. For the evidence of this oral presentation, the content is about the purpose of or objective of the presentation was accomplished. And then the introduction was left and got my attention, and then the main idea or point and the supporting points such as clearly expressed and supported well by fact. And then the next test is about picture cute storytelling. Students describe a story based on series of pictures that they previously saw. One of the most common technique for eliciting oral production is through visual pictures, photographs, diagrams, and charts. We have already looked at this elicitation device for intensive tasks, but at this level, we consider a picture or a series of picture as a stimulus for a longer story or the description. And then the last one is retelling a story or news event. In this type of task, the task taker here or read a story or news event that they are asked to tell. This differ from the paraphrasing task discussed in that it is longer stretch of a discourse and different genre. The objective in assignments such as tasks vary from listening comprehension of the original to production of a number of oral discourse feature or communicating a sequence relationship events stress and emphasize pattern like expression in the case of a dramatic story fluency and interaction with the hearer. Scoring should of course meet the intended criteria.